Hey everyone, it's Kyle. Today I'm going to be working on the garage organization project. If you saw my first video on this, I hung those cabinets back there. Those have been a great addition to getting some smaller items contained, organized, and easily accessible. Today I want to work on building some shelves to get some of the larger items off the floor. Now, you've probably seen some options for this. A lot of people have the big racks that hang from the ceiling over the garage door. I've also seen some videos where people have built homemade shelves attached to the wall and the ceiling. Those can be great options, but one thing to consider is for probably about the last 30 years, a lot of rafters are not made with solid lumber. They're made with LVLs, laminated veneer lumber. When you screw into the side of an LVL, that screw is going to want to force those layers apart. There have been reports of things hung from LVLs that have fallen down. I'm not telling you what to do with your home. I don't know what code is, but that's just something to keep in mind, that just because you see something on social media or you see a product that looks cool, it may work in some applications and not in others. So for me, hanging heavy items overhead, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be sturdy and not fall down. So I searched and I discovered Rhino Shelf. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I will leave a link in the description below to their product. But these are metal brackets that hang solely to the wall, attached solely to the wall, and then you just get 2x4s as the base of the shelf. I believe, check their website, but I believe they said each 4-foot section can hold up to 650 pounds. Of course, double check that. But to me, that's a great option. And they also look a little cleaner and more organized, which my wife likes. So what I'm gonna do today is, I'm not gonna bore you with all this, but I will get to work clearing all this away from the wall, and then I will show you how to hang these up, and then I'll show you the finished product, so hopefully you can get some ideas for your garage. All right, so as long as you guys don't look over there, actually looks like I got the garage clean. But I got everything out of the way, time to hang the shelves. We did notice the wall was pretty scuffed up, but thank you, Magic Eraser. Again, not sponsored, but Mr. Clean, if you want to send me some money, I'll take it. So now I'm going to work on getting the shelves hung. All right, so the first step in hanging the shelves, of course, is figuring out where you want to hang them. The directions recommend no lower than 84 inches. That way no one will hit their head on them. That will be above most vehicles. However, we already have the cabinets here, so we need to do it above that. And then my plan is to do across this whole wall. So instead of hanging it over here at a certain height and then going above the door track over here, I'm just gonna go above the door track and do it level all the way across. So a couple more things to keep in mind when you're determining your height. Like I said, we're gonna mount it above the track. Of course, the door panels actually come higher than the track, so I went up there on the ladder and opened and closed it and tried to see exactly where how high the door goes. So what I determined was that if I mounted it 28 inches from the ceiling, that will give the door enough clearance to open, and that will also give us, should at least give us 26 inches from the shelf, the top of the shelf to the ceiling. So I'm sure you guys have all seen these black and yellow totes before. I just ran to Lowe's to get a couple so we could measure and see what would be able to fit up there. And I discovered they have a lot more sizes now. So this one is the 27 gallon. This one above it is the 16 gallon. And what's nice is they're the same, they use the same lid, the same footprint, so they still nest together really well. But of course this one's a little shallower. Another thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is giving yourself clearance to get these things on and off. If I just measure from here to the floor, it's going to give me one height, but of course since these nest, I need to lift this up to get it out of here, and I don't want to be taking both totes down at once every time. So just a couple things to keep in mind when you're determining the height of your shelf. All right, guys, I don't like to bore people with unboxing, but I just had to cut in quick and show you this. This is impressive packaging. Instructions you can read, pictures you can understand. They will FaceTime you if you have problems. Like, this is impressive. So props to Rhino Shelf for that. Somebody installed this a little too low initially. Fortunately, I came back and through and fixed it. But one thing to keep in mind is the instructions are having you measure from the floor up, not the ceiling down like I'm doing. So if you do something different than the instructions, make sure you take that into account before you just start hanging things up, because I did hang it a little too low. Oh well. All right, so I got the brackets for the deeper shelf installed. I was thinking it would be really helpful to have some scaffolding, and then I remembered I have this tonneau cover on my truck. So I pulled in and have been working off that, which has been great. I'm actually gonna call an audible though. I was gonna install the shallower shelf below the cabinets, but after reevaluating, that's just gonna be still too deep. I really don't want something deeper than the cabinets below it. So I think if I have room, I'm gonna go ahead and install them right below these, but still above the cabinets. It won't give us as much height, but at least that will be a good option to still give us a lot more room down by the floor. All right, so I have all the upper shelf brackets done. I started on the lowers. Even though with a left wall start, you're supposed to start with the wall bracket, I actually started with this one because I wanted to set the space between the cabinets and the bracket, and it's just easier to do it right here. So I just put a 2x4 on the cabinets and used that to determine the height I wanted, and then I went over and did that one. Now in the corner there, the instructions say to drill that at a 30-degree angle to get the stud, because typically on that short of a bracket, you're not gonna have two studs. My wall actually had two studs. Drilling into the corner, I didn't hit a stud. So I'm not telling you to ignore the directions, but I wanted to make sure I was in two studs. So this is how I did it. All right, so the deal I have with my wife is I'll build whatever she wants, but I may need a new tool to do it. Got myself a new laser level. I had one built into the stud finder, but because these brackets are so close to the cabinets, I could have worked it out, but this is a lot easier. So this one has level, plumb, everything, whole bunch of different options that I don't know yet. Has a tripod, which was a little too short, but I put it up on my table saw. So this will not only help me finish up this project, but it'll be great for a whole bunch of other future projects. All right, so I have all the brackets hung up. Now it's time to measure and cut the boards for the shelves. So I have a little diagram here with all the bays. So I'm gonna go through and measure everything. It says to measure at the wall. So obviously out front here, you can wiggle it a little bit until those boards get installed. So make sure you measure at the wall. Even though the top and lowers are probably in the same studs, depending on how you installed it, I'm still gonna measure those bays because they might be a 1/16 of an inch off or something. So I'm gonna measure them all, cut one board from each, mark them to which bay they go to, and then I'll bring them up, make sure they fit, and then I'll use that board to measure and cut the other boards for each bay. So let's get to work on that. All right, so we're working on painting the boards now. We also just picked up a whole truckload of those bins. So in between coats and while the boards are drying, I'm gonna start organizing the bins. And then I also recently discovered this handy little device. So this is a label maker. Again, got it off Amazon. I'll leave a link to it down below. But it works off Bluetooth, and you can just design the labels right from your phone and then print them off. So I'll show you that quick. All right, so you can just go in here, drag, resize, make this big as you want. So I'm gonna do 2 labels, so it'll be a little bit bigger. And there you go. So now I can mark this. These are the total of the moving blankets. So I can label those. And everything will be a lot easier to find that way. All right, so the instructions say to install the front board first, all the way down the line, and then fill in with the rest. So I started back there at the left wall and started going down. I did notice a couple gaps, small gaps, and I thought maybe I just cut the board a little too short. But then the boards down here started to not fit. So it was actually that these brackets were out a little bit, and I needed to bring them in when I was screwing them together. So I went back through and did that. Now everything fits. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is just make sure that as long as you cut your boards properly, make sure you're squaring everything up and bringing everything in tight, so once you get down here at the end, it fits. So now I'm going to fill in the rest of the boards. All right, so they also included this spacer in the kit. This is to find once you find the one side of your stud, to get the exact center. It's just a 3/4 inch piece. But then the length of it is actually your spacer for the spacing for the shelf boards. So you just do that to both sides, and then you'll have them spaced out perfectly. All right, so I had a little bit of unused space under this larger shelf, but above the track of the garage door. So I thought I would get some pipe and store some of the longer, lesser used things like these garden stakes and clamps and things. These technically are floor flanges, so I don't know if they're meant to be hung like this, but they seem sturdy enough for my purposes, so this is how I'm doing it. All right, so now I can take things like these pipe clamps and get them up and out of the way. All right. All right, this project is complete. I have the shelves fully loaded now. You may notice a couple of the bins are unlabeled. Those are empty. When I started, I bought a bunch of different bins in all different sizes. Once I filled what I could, I had a few empty spaces still, so I figured I'd throw up the bins that fit, and then that way I could return the rest, and those will be there when I need them. The rest of the garage is looking a lot better now, much more organized. There's still a lot of stuff that's going to get put away or gotten rid of. But the reason I haven't done that yet is because there is another phase of this project coming. So I will be doing that soon. So if you want to see that one's going to be really cool, and that's what's really going to pull all of this organization stuff together. So if you want to see that, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. Thank you for watching.